Hello, and welcome to episode 136 of Checkpoint Chat. My name is Alessandro Barbosa. I'm joined, as always, by Matty Figuera.
Me. That's me.
Is it you?
It is, in fact, me. I don't know what to say when you introduce me. It's like, yes, I am here.
I am here. My
Hello.
name is Matthew.
Good to
Correct.
see you. Yeah. Yeah.
You, sir, answered the right question. $10,000 goes to you.
Is this Jeopardy? Who is the most handsome Portuguese man in Parkview? That is the correct.
Matthew Figuera.
Wow.
Hey.
Yay. I'll take accounting for $300.
Is that how Jeopardy works? I just know you. Is Jeopardy the one where you answer by asking a question?
You get given the answer and you have to ask what the question is. So they'll be like, Lake Michigan. And you'll have to be like, what is the largest lake on the West Coast, for example? I don't know if that's true, but that's more or less how it works.
That's kind of, that's interesting. I think it must be difficult to rack your brain around that because it's...
Yeah, it's a different kind of logic, I guess. So, yeah, Jeopardy. I can't say I've ever seen an episode, but that Jeopardy's been like an American television / pastime for actual decades. The host actually died, I think, last year.
I think that's what why I have it in my memory so recently.
Yeah,
something Trebek, if I'm not mistaken.
I can't for the life of me.
Yeah,
remember.
I don't think it was last year. I think it was just earlier this year.
Was it?
Yeah.
Was it? Maybe.
I do remember.
I do
remember it making news though, because he apparently had been hosting the show forever.
And I don't know if this is the regular host, but I think the person who replaced him was like the longest running Jeopardy champion or someone.
Hectic.
Yeah, someone who's like been on Jeopardy a lot. My brother actually I've gone blank now, but my brother recommended a podcast where they interviewed this guy who won Jeopardy the most. I don't know, he's world record holder for something along those lines of either the longest running Jeopardy champion or most appearances or something like that. And just an interview with this guy, and it's real interesting to listen to how he, I suppose, wraps his head around that game and how he just, I don't know, he figured the game out and he was just very good at it. So I think he was called on to host because I think the audience actually know him. It was like that.
Yeah, if he's like a series staple and champion, people recognize him immediately. Yeah, interesting.
So Jeopardy.
I don't think
how I thought we'd start the show, but
I don't think there's ever been a South African variant of Jeopardy, as far as I know.
No, but South Africa
bring everything here.
Yeah, do you want to talk about Love Island? I can't say I've watched anything about it. I've not watched it. I've heard and seen snippets of it, and good Lord.
I've also seen snippets because Shani loves Love Island UK and America, and so she gave the South African one a shot, and she's like, it's so bad. It's really, really, really bad.
No, I've seen snippets, and it is... I don't know. There've been so many comments on Twitter and just Facebook and everywhere I've looked of I don't know, how did they mix? It's a lot of people said it's almost like there was a draft version of the first episode and what was supposed to be, I suppose, the final edit, but it feels the draft version went out, which is just... I
admire, if anything, I admire the production the attempted production on that show because they essentially have to come up with they have to hope that the contestants make content on that day and then cut it in a way that obviously makes it look like there's more drama than there is because that's how those things work.
Does it air every day? It's not like a weekly thing.
Every day.
My goodness.
So imagine the production cycle on that. It must be so stressful. I can't imagine that.
What is the process of that? I suppose you have to have a team of people constantly watching, reviewing footage, and then maybe, I don't know, a writer or someone who sits of pieces together a narrative for the day. Oh my God, I can't believe Jolene said that to Brad. Let's turn that into an arc.
Journey.
Or
Great.
I'm sorry. First name that came to mind.
Dolly Parton.
Dolly
Journey.
Yeah, but I mean, oh my God. It makes me think of the last big reality show that I watched personally. And it was funny because this is something I think everyone watched back in the day was Big Brother. That was the thing of like, that was, if you had DSTV, it was, you could tune in at any time, whatever. But
such a strange concept.
I know, but if you had Mnet or whatever, you could, catch the daily wrap up and that's sort of the same thing, right? They have to package up like, what happened in the house today? Oh, I can't believe.
I just remember Big Brother was a big thing because it's like, ooh, this is when everyone is showering. Ooh.
Oh yeah, I mean, even that concept is like the housemates only have an hour to shower, and we all know what everyone's going to do in that hour. They're going to watch them shower because it's naked people. It's like a weird.
It definitely feels like a very pre-internet porn on the internet thing because no one gives a fuck nowadays. Like, who the fuck cares?
It's so funny. What a time to be alive. Like,
just a strange time. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
But like, I mean, both of us at that time were kids. So I remember it being very taboo. Like, ooh, your parents let you watch Big Brother.
Yeah.
Like, if you go back now and watch it, because I mean, some countries still run Big Brother. It's fucking boring. Like,
It's
you're
so
just
boring.
watching people live their lives. Like, who cares?
And like, the thing I don't personally like with reality shows is that there's always going to be an element of it being fake, whether that's
Of course, yeah. It's all scripted in some way.
Yeah, whether that's like the TV producers or even just the contestants, because you're on television, you're not actually being yourself. It's the same sort of thing of like, do you remember in school if you were in a class and then for some reason you had somewhat like an external person reviewing the class? It's always like it's like it just felt different. Like there's a little bit of
the teacher
tension.
would always like put a bit more oomph into everything.
Yeah, and it's like, this isn't what classes normally.
No,
are. You're
exactly.
putting on a show here.
Exactly. I actually have a good friend of mine. His girlfriend was on South African Survivor, I think the last season.
Oh wow.
And she was telling me that, well, because we asked her about like the whole experience and whatever. So apparently before the show even begins filming, they put every contestant in a hotel room alone for 2 weeks. No TV, not allowed any books, not allowed. And they say it's to get you used to the isolation. But when I was hearing about how difficult it was for her, I was like, this is 100% meant to get you a bit crazy before they turn on the cameras. Like 2 weeks in complete isolation alone, like that sounds like a nightmare. I would not cope with that.
Just give me my Switch. I'll be sorted. Give me a Switch with Breath of the Wild or like a nice long game. It's cool.
But like you're in this hotel room firstly, so it's foreign.
Yeah.
All you're doing is getting food delivered to your door, and those 2 weeks must have felt so long.
Yeah. You like come out of the hotel room like, did I win Survivor?
Yeah, and they're like, it's just starting.
It's only just begun. My goodness.
And
That's
I think,
crazy.
if I'm not mistaken, they were also like the food that they were giving them, there was only like rice and stuff like that to get them used to, hey, you're not going to have proper food for a very long time.
Rice? Jeez.
Yeah. Imagine how good a cheeseburger must taste after Survivor. Holy shit.
Yeah. That I think that's like the OG reality show.
Or a
Survivor.
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola. But like, remember, my earliest memories of a reality show is Survivor. Like, that's a show that's been around for decades. And then
it was so good, man.
It was good. I watched a couple of seasons of that
Yeah.
when I was younger. And it's weird to think that it was like a weekly thing. So it's like, ooh, who's going to get voted out this week? I can't believe so-and-so won immunity. I hate that person. I can't believe it. Oh my God, I can't believe the tribe backstabbed this person. I thought they all liked them.
And there's like very little that happens each episode. It's like one little challenge and then it's them just talking
Chilling.
for like 30 minutes and then like a vote. And that's it. It's genius. Like
I can't believe Regina said that to me. It's like,
I can't believe you found the hidden immunity idol in a tree or something. I don't know.
We just sent them out looking for coconuts. The lucky bastard.
It was good. If I'm not mistaken, I'd have to look this up, and I'm not going to now. But the original host of The American is still hosting the current seasons. Like, damn.
That dude must be ancient now. What is his name? I know exactly what he looks
don't know
like.
his
Yeah.
name. I know. Yeah, exactly. I know exactly what he looks like. I just don't know his name. But at least he hasn't gone on to like host a stupid podcast like Seth Rogen, who used to host Fear Factor.
My goodness, that's so like it's so weird that they are the same person. I think of Fear Factor.
It is, yeah.
And yeah, it's interesting.
If you actually look at him now, like you're like, oh, he is, and then you go look at old episodes of Fear Factor, he's like oh yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Fear Factor was also a big one, like when it launched. I remember people going mental over that.
So always the eating challenges that got me. It's like, cool, throw me from a plane.
That's so
make
disgusting.
me jet ski and jump onto a thing, whatever. Don't make me eat like a spider or
or like be in a tank full of spiders crawling all over me. No. There is a great show that I watch every now and then because I don't really watch DSTV, but it's hosted by The Rock. It's called Titan Games, I think. So it's, do you remember Gladiator?
Oh, yeah? Oh.
Yeah, so kind of like that, but far more, the contestants are actual fucking athletes. Like when I showed it to my sister, she was like, oh, that girl's like one of the top CrossFitters in the world. And she's like a contestant on the show. So it's like these hardcore physical challenges. And it's just cool to watch because these people are like peak athletes. And then the funniest is that Dwayne Johnson is just there, like you can tell he's just like kind of phoning it in there. He's just like he's watching them and he's just like nodding his head. He's like, that was good. That was good. Yeah, good performance, whatever. And he's like, look at me, I'm wearing Under Armour. It's like a huge fucking advert for him.
Yeah.
It's really funny. And apparently all the challenges are styled after workouts he does, and I'm like, okay, sure thing.
Okay, dude. Are you climbing 10 meters worth of trees? Cool.
There's one challenge where they have to they have to take a hammer and break open this like stone chest to get something. I'm like, okay, I'm sure he does that at the gym.
I mean, he's got the money. He could do that.
Just rocks in the gym. There's all these sledgehammers and boxes.
Honey, will you grab the doorbell? There's a delivery of my stone chests for the week. Just roll them to the back. Cool, thank you.
I don't even know if that dude's married. Like,
I think he is. I think he's got. Look, I could be wrong, but it's interesting because Hollywood generally is like a shit show with relationships and marriages and drama, whatever. I always found it interesting that The Rock is like easily one of the biggest stars. Look, I don't know today, but I know in the last few years I
think he's still one of the like highest paid.
Yeah, highest paid stars. And what I really like about him is that he comes across as a very down to earth, modest person, and I could be wrong, but I think he is married with like a full on family.
Yeah, so you don't hear like any real drama about him.
He seems to be like that's a good person to look up to.
And he's super positive. Like I follow him on Twitter and he's so positive on Twitter. He's always like complimenting people, but like not complimenting other like famous people. Like someone will just comment on a tweet of his about like a workout or something and he'll like quote retweet them and like be motivational. And it's fucking cool. Like that's awesome.
It just replies with a video of him nodding his head like, that was cool.
It's like, if you're going to do that on social media, if you're going to have a huge following, spread that positivity. It's pretty great.
It's a good time.
He's
a good dude.
I just find it ridiculous that they say that this is styled after his gym. I was like, okay, sure.
I mean, he's The Rock, for goodness sake. Is it considered like cannibalism? Or what's the word if you kill your own people? The Rock actually smashing Rock.
Oh, God. Yeah. This Checkpoint Chat, we talk about video games.
Talk about The Rock and reality shows.
The Rock and cannibalizing his own people. Oh my God.
If The Rock eats a rock, is that cannibalism?
Well, you've got
Those are things that keep me up at night.
You've got your header image, I think. Good Lord. Just like find Dwayne Johnson with a rock in his hand. Just like like if you find a picture of him like eating a mango or something, just Photoshop a rock into there or something.
I wish I had the ability. But yes, this is Checkpoint Chat. We talk about games sometimes, we're not speaking
most
rubbish.
of the time. Yeah. So big news, I finished Sekiro. Holy shit.
My God. Okay, let me just get a timestamp here. How long did that last boss take you, more or less?
Well, it was pretty much this week. I had 3 evenings where I played just that boss. And it was yesterday the third time where I finally got it. And I think each session where I was trying was maybe about 2 hours. So I'd say close to about 5 hours just on that boss.
Yeah. I had the same more or less. So I played Sekiro on stream, and I think I got to the last boss like late one evening. So I tried for about an hour. And then on my next stream, it was like a good 2 or 3 hours of just straight up grinding through that boss.
But you're totally right. When I first got to him, you're like, it is a grind to learn this boss. And it is. But it also, like, Ishin is... He's hard. Like, he's an asshole to fucking
Super
beat.
difficult, yeah.
Definitely one of the hardest bosses in the game. But he also highlights one of the reasons I love Sekiro so much is just like when you finally figure out how to deal with him, the fight is actually easy. Like every fight in the game is you think, oh, I need to have 3 regen slots ready to go, and I need to have all my healing items, and I can't use healing here, otherwise I'm not going to have it for the rest of the fight. Like when I eventually beat Ishin, I think I healed quite a bit because I made some dumb mistakes at the end. But I think I only revived once, even though I had like 2 other pips. Like there's no space for that shit. Like if you're relying on that, then you're not going to beat them. So yeah, it was just interesting because at first it was like getting past Genichiro, and I was like, Jesus Christ, why can I not get this guy?
Yeah.
And then eventually at the end, like I was acing Genichiro. Like every time I got hit just once, it's like, fuck's sake, what a dumb thing, you know? And then
I've got to restart the fight now. It's
yeah,
done.
and then that kind of like bled over into the first phase of Ishin's fight. Like I was doing that first phase without being touched. And where 2 hours earlier it was completely destroying me, like I could not get the timing. And then it like kind of like snowballs into that. Like the second phase is still hard because I think he just moves in weird ways. It's very hard to read him. But once you get that down, then the third phase is very similar to the second one. So
just with added lightning.
It's what I love from Sekiro from start to finish. It's like every fight is this very tangible learning process. And yes, you are required to have reflexes, but the reflexes aren't what gets you through the fight. It's reading your enemy.
It's learning, and reacting.
And also finding opportunities to attack, because I think the very first time I played Sekiro and when I bounced off of it, I was still very much in that Dark Souls or Bloodborne kind of mentality where I was being reactive to enemy attacks rather than proactive. So I don't know why it clicked in my brain when I just picked it up again, but I found that you can just as easily overwhelm bosses in the same way that they overwhelm you.
Yeah.
Like you can stagger them, you can really interrupt their flow. And once that clicks in your head, you're like, oh, I need to be far more aggressive and then be very, very lightning fast on reacting to instances where they block me.
Yeah.
And like fights against the owl, for instance, and I think Lady Butterfly really show that off. Like if you are not aggressive, you can't beat them.
No.
There's just no way. You need to find these like small little windows where, in the middle of them doing a swipe, you can get an attack in, and that will interrupt them, and then you can let off like three attacks before having to defend again. It's such a measured combat system. Like it's really just incredible.
Yeah,
really
and I think what's cool, what's really smart as well is where the posture system lends itself to both attack and defense.
Yes.
Like you say, you have to be aggressive, but in the same vein, you have to be defensive. You have to obviously time your blocks because that builds up more posture, which is how you overwhelm the bosses. You want to get that posture meter full, so you can obviously get an opening for a killing blow, or to get a pip off their overall health bar or health dots, whatever you want to call them. It's like I want to revisit that game because I absolutely loved it. It was. I mean, they did exactly what I think they intended to do, where it's like from fans are like, cool, like I'm a master of Dark Souls and I'm a master of Bloodborne and I'm ready for this cool samurai game. I'm gonna, it's gonna be such a breeze. I'm gonna walk through it like with minimal.
It's gonna be
challenge.
the same thing.
Like I know their systems inside out, and they're like, no, here's this brand new combat system. It's all about like, and the thing is like, you can't roll in Sekiro.
No,
it's like,
and your dodge is very limited.
Your dodge, like there are some attacks you can dodge through if you time it well, but otherwise, it feels like most of the attacks follow you, and dodging is not the way you should play the game.
And also, like, there's some bullshit in Sekiro. Like, I mean, people bash the game for it, and it is annoying. But sometimes you will 100% dodge like a grab. And you'll magically teleport back into that grab, and you're like how did something's not right with the iframes there, but okay.
Yeah, but it's designed that
like Ishin stabbed me through a rock yesterday. I was like, okay,
dude, he's
cool.
he's a. I mean, if that's gonna upset you, then you have to ask how this dude has a Glock and like.
Yeah, what the fuck? Like, I'm totally fine with the fact that in Sekiro I fight like a big monkey who holds his head in his hand, or like, I'm fine with the fact that I fight these slug things that are in robes that can play the flute. But when Genichiro pulls out a gun, I draw the line.
I mean, the dude can wield lightning. Like, that's
I could not believe that I block a sword attack and then I have to block a fucking like
actual
burst from
weapons.
a Glock. What the hell is going on? Like, is ridiculous.
Yeah, but that game, it's like it
Ashina.
forces you to face every fight. Like, you can't. It feels like there's. I mean, I'm sure people have figured out ways to cheese the game, but it feels like there are no ways to cheese the game. And I don't know if you've watched any speedruns, but now that you finish the game, go watch speedruns and you'll laugh at how some bosses are skipped. Like,
I can imagine, yeah.
It's actually kind of funny because so like a Bloodborne or a Dark Souls speedrun, they fun to watch because it's a thing of like, how do they kill this boss quickly? Oh, they use this buff and then they just like, they abuse the cycle where they like get an attack in, step left, get an attack in, and the boss is just programmed in a way that it doesn't react. They like find an easiest way to beat the boss. Sekiro speedruns are like, they skip a lot of the bosses and they make the bosses do stupid things. So like, do you remember that boss you fought on horseback?
Oh yes, the general something.
So speedrunners have figured out that if you manage to climb a tree/platform in a very specific way. Yeah, and stand on a roof, this boss will just run off the cliff.
Yeah. I actually saw Timur from GameSpot tweet that out.
Yeah.
And I was like, because I just saw him like flinging across the roofs, and I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? And then eventually the boss just runs off the cliff. It's like, oh.
I'm like, yeah. So, I mean, not every boss is like that, but you go watch a speedrun now that you finish the game. Even like a good example is that monkey boss fights, where you spend so long trying to like, track them down, but speedrunners have the pattern down so well. They do it like in no time. It's insane.
That boss is still like, it was incredible because I got his first phase down. I think the first time I fought him, and I was like, wow, why were people bitching about this boss? as I like thought that, I saw him get up, and I was like, oh.
Oh, you're talking about I was talking about the illusion monkeys,
those three. Fuck that boss, man. Okay, I hated that boss.
But on that monkey, the big monkey boss fight,
how much
did you panic and you're like, oh my god, there's a second phase?
And that second phase is so confusing because the way he moves is so weird. He does like a snake motion with his sword.
Yeah.
Trying to block that is such a pain because
I think
it's so hard to figure out when it's actually coming in.
But that is 100% like top 10 material because I think everyone's like, because like the monkey boss fights, it's not that challenging. Like it takes time to figure it out. You're like, cool. You finally beat it. You're like, oh, okay, that's that boss.
He's also more like a Bloodborne boss because he's so aggressive in a very different way. Apparently, there's another monkey boss, Headless Ape, which I never found. Now that I'm done, I'm doing the thing where I'm reading through all the stuff.
You got a lot of bosses to fight. So that you fight, I think you fight two of them at the same time, if I'm not mistaken.
2 monkeys. Oh, fuck that. No.
You fight 2 of them. There's a boss you 100% have to go back to, and that's what I told you last night when you messaged me, the Demon of Hatred. That's like easily, I don't know if it's the hardest boss. I think Ishin, I mean, look, I don't know if I have to compare the time it took me to beat Ishin compared to the Demon of Hatred, but I'd say it's up there as one of the hardest bosses in the game. It's like completely optional, but again, super rewarding when you figure out how to fight and beat this boss. So
Yeah, like
if
I
you're gonna
told you, I know an NPC told me about it. I just couldn't figure out how to get there. Like,
I need to find a clip. I 100% stumbled onto it by accident where like I touched an idol and I turned around. I was like, no, how did I get here? And I'm like in a boss fight. It's like, oh.
I kind of want to, because now I've read up on, because there's 4 endings to Sekiro. So yeah, it blows my mind that they have an ending there that cuts out like what feels like almost a quarter of the game. It's
insane.
And it's so easy to trigger. Like I nearly triggered it because I was like thinking, I'm like, oh, maybe the game wants me to do this. You know what I mean? And I would have been so pissed off if I had done that. Like
I would have. Well, it's not quite on the same level of severity, but the first time I finished Bloodborne, you know you have to make that decision with Gurman of like, do you embrace death or you say no? And I was like, yeah, whatever, I embrace the death. And then the credits rolled, and I was like, oh, is that the game? And
so
then
you
my
didn't
chat
even
were
fight
like,
Jermaine. Oh,
like
no.
you chose the wrong ending. It's like, damn it, I've got to replay this game now.
Yeah,
I was like, I'll just reload, and they're like, no, you can't.
No, you can't.
Like,
Yeah, at least Sekiro actually you can't either. Like you just have to start a new hardcore. I mean, there's a lot of questions I have. Like, what happened? Because eventually the sculptor just disappears. So I'm like, okay, where did he go? And then
let me know when you figure that one out.
yeah. I want to know how Ishin appears at the end, like he does.
Yeah.
The fuck, man? Where did that come from? You know, like I thought, oh, I'm gonna fight the old dude, and no, I just fought this gross. Yeah, a lot of Sekiro's story. The story doesn't personally hold the same like mystery that Bloodborne does, but maybe that's the theme more than anything. But it's still got its own brand of like convoluted bullshit that I kind of want to dig into.
You can go watch some Vati vids now, and you'll obviously learn. Like I hear you to say, like Bloodborne, I think is particularly good at, putting forward the story where it's like there are just different theories. There's like some clear lines of like, there's this faction, and then these are the heads of the faction, and this is how the church was started, X, Y, Z. But there's
the world dressing in Bloodborne is so much more interesting. I find.
There's like this big level of mystery where people have spent like hours upon hours trying to figure out like, well, what actually happened. Where Sekiro, it feels more like, no, you're the protector of this dude, you've got to do this. But there is a whole lot of lore there that you can dig into. But I hear it's not quite the same level of Bloodborne. But isn't it wild to think that Sekiro is kind of like a side project for them?
It's crazy.
It's like FromSoft did the side project that won Game of the Year, which is just casual. Like, okay. But I mean, you finished it now. Do you think it was worthy of Game of the Year?
100%.
Was it 2019?
Yeah.
2019, yeah, it wasn't last year.
Yeah, it was 2019, yeah.
And I found that surprising because there was some big hit. I mean, I don't remember off the top of my head who the heavy hitters were, but Sekiro is 100%. Look, I think From games are more mainstream than they've ever been, but it's still like a niche game. It's definitely not a Call of Duty or, I don't know, like Division or Assassin's Creed. You know what I mean? Like that level of player base.
Well, I mean, the fact that Activision published it alone was already like oh, wow.
Yeah.
So
it's a good game.
I always remember Sekiro, funnily enough, tied to your wedding because it came out around the same time.
It is like a month or two after.
No, it was the week after.
We've had this conversation before where why I think it is because Lenska got it with me for my birthday, which is in May. But it came out earlier than that.
Yeah, because I remember being in Lisbon airport on the way back from your wedding, and the embargo for the reviews like lifted, and I was just in the airport waiting for my flight, reading through all these reviews and being like, fuck, I need to play this game. Like, oh my God.
And you waited 2 years.
Well, I played it then, but it was just like Bloodborne. I got stuck early on. I think it was the very first time you faced Genichiro, and it just wasn't clicking with me then, and I put it down. I mean, I did the same with Bloodborne for like 6 months. I got to Bloodstarved Beast, could not get past
Oh
him.
my
Was just
God.
like, fuck this.
That is a boss though.
And then
So-
one day you just wake up going, I kind of want to try this again. And, you know, with Bloodborne, it was a weekend where I did that and I finished it and I was so happy. And Sekiro, it was longer because I had to move in between then and I lost a bit of my muscle memory. But once I got into the groove, it just like I said, I think when I started again and I was messaging, I was like, I'm finding this game so much easier now. Like parts that I was struggling with, I was just breezing past. So
yeah, but you're fine when you play it again now. If you do the second playthrough, I mean, you beat Ishin, and I always tell you that the first phase of Ishin is Genichiro. Now you'll probably beat him because you fight him right at the beginning of the game. You probably will beat him. You'll be like, ha. But then obviously for story purposes you still lose. But
and that's like so if you beat him right at the beginning in that field,
you still lose.
I thought the game like would roll credits there. That would have been fucking awesome.
No, but apparently I think I looked it up where you like beat him, but then someone else like shoots an arrow or something that like downs you, and then
the fucking
you still
owl
lose
again.
your arm.
I swear to God.
Sorry,
I'm almost certain that when you beat Lady Butterfly, the person who stabs you is Owl.
Probably. I can't remember.
There's an ending where you face him a second time.
Yeah. It's crazy.
There's a lot to this game that I still want to play.
Plenty, yeah. Again, side project, which one game of the year. Cool.
There was also a prosthetic tool that I never found.
Which one's that?
I don't know. Just on my upgrade tree, there was always a locked one. So and I got so many. But again, I hardly used some of them. Like in general, I hardly used it.
I found it was interesting that. I mean, what did you end up using, even though it was little?
I used the axe a lot to break shields. That's about it.
I never used the axe, and it's interesting because John Michael, also a big fan of From Games, he loved the umbrella. Like he upgraded the shit out of the umbrella.
Wait, what's the umbrella? That's probably the one I missed.
Don't have the umbrella.
No,
that's basically something you can equip that blocks like incoming attacks and stuff.
Okay,
I don't know where you get it, but like that itself has a lot of different levels.
I never got that. Yeah.
Hilarious. And then like I used the fireworks and the shurikens the most because I just thought it was the flashiest, coolest ninja shit you could give me.
I use the fire a lot on
the fire is also quite cool.
Some bosses where you can stun them with fire. The shuriken, I loved it. I just never found. Again, like I focused on mainly the sword stuff, and I know there was like combat arts where you could combine your prosthetics with your main attacks, and I always wanted to like learn that, but at the same time, my brain was just like, no, you understand just the raw sword, just stick with that. So. The poison dagger thing was pretty good though. That thing can really fucking slice through people. So great game.
Sekiro would recommend.
Would recommend even 2 years later, especially now on new consoles. On PS5, this thing just runs at a locked 60, and this is how the game is meant to be played, in my opinion. It's so much better. So good game. As for new games I've been playing, before I let you talk,
how dare you?
I've been playing a game that is in early access, but it is scheduled to come out later this year. We've spoken about it briefly every now and then. Fights in Tight Spaces.
I love the name.
Listen, the name of the game, the premise, it's
I know
fantastic.
exactly what you're talking about. It's almost like the John Wick game, but not. Is it that one?
Yes.
Okay,
yes. So,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So it sort of looks like Super Hot because everything's like black and white and enemies are in red, or depending on what enemies, they're sometimes in purple and orange. But it's very, like not monochromatic, but very like vague and sharp colors and harsh colors, stuff like that. I don't have the word in my brain. Whatever. But so essentially what it is a strategic, it's like a turn-based strategy game, but with cards. Now, I know immediately when people hear cards and deck building, they're like, I'm out.
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah. But this is not on the same vein as like a Hearthstone or something like that. Like the cards are basically actions that you can take. And you do very light deck building at the moment. So like every time you finish a battle, you'll be presented with 3 cards as a reward, and you choose what to add to your deck, which can be like identical attacks that you already have so that you have more of a chance to get them served up in a turn, stuff like that. It's not really like you're not starting each run, because it is a roguelike. You're not starting each run with like building your deck and swapping cards in and out and whatever. You're more just like adding attacks to your arsenal, and building it up so that there is a general theme to your deck. And how they help you with that is at the start of each run, you have a choice of 4 play styles, which kind of give your deck a theme, like your initial deck. So like you can have balanced, or you can have very attack focused, or you can have a deck that is primarily focused on counter attacks, stuff like that. And I feel like each one definitely makes the game feel different in a way. So, but how the game works essentially is each level is a small space. Like I'm talking about maybe a 4x4 grid of spaces to work, or sometimes even smaller.
One
and the
by
game,
one. Like,
the game plays out very similarly to Into the Breach if you've played it. So you have a turn where you have your turn, and you have a specific number of action points, and cards cost different amount of action points, and that lets you do like attacks on 1 tile ahead of you or 2 tiles ahead of you, or you have cards that give you block so that you can withstand incoming attacks, and if you withstand an incoming attack, you can counter on a turn, stuff like that.
Okay.
And then enemies around you all have, they take their turns after you, but they go in a specific order that you can see. So you can do things just like Into the Breach, where if an enemy... So if you go into range of attack within an enemy, they are primed for attack. That means on their turn, they will attack, like irrespective of if you move out of that range during that turn. Once you've initiated them, they're in that attack state. So what you can do is then use some abilities to move other enemies into their path of attack so that enemies end up hitting each other, which is just like Into the Breach. So if I have a guy, for instance, far away from me who's aiming a gun at me, and then I trade places with an enemy or use a kick that moves them a tile to the left to put them in the line of fire, that guy will shoot them. But then you also have to take into account the order of events, because sometimes the guy that you push in front of you is actually going to attack first, and his attack is going to move him to a different tile, so then you'll still get shot. It's extremely strategic. Like you have to think about where you're going to end your turn, like what position, and also just make your limited number of action points per turn work in the most effective way. Because if you're just going for raw damage, sometimes you're not going to win. You need to find ways to damage enemies in alternative ways. It's really good. I think the game's in early access, but it feels like a final product already, because there's so much content. It's like, I think like five or 6 levels, and each run starts you at the beginning. You can, once you unlock a stage, you can jump forward to start that stage first, but then it's harder because you have none of the upgrades that you would have gotten previously.
You haven't really built your deck or...
Exactly, yeah. So they warn you. They're like, you're making things harder for yourself. So
you're like, yes.
The
I've
runs
just beat a Shin in Sekiro. Like, come on.
The runs are hard. This game is hard. Like, I think it's definitely I also found Into the Breach very hard. But it's a case of every run you learn something a bit more. There is no, as far as I can tell, there's no persistent items between runs. So it's not a case of, you will just get stronger between runs, but I think you do learn how to play it in a very different way. Like I, at first, was struggling to get past the first world, and now it's not really much of an issue anymore. But yeah, it's super good. It's like 110 Rand on Steam. And like I said, it feels like they're adding, I think on their roadmap, they have 2 extra like stages, like worlds that they are adding. And they're adding a daily run mode, and they're adding more themed decks. So there's like
Okay.
the core of the game is there. They're not changing the mechanics as far as I can tell. So you can get a lot out of this game right now still. And it's just really stylish. I think it's really cool. It's cool to watch your replays back in real time of all the moves you made. It suffers from the thing that John Wick Hex did a bit, where it doesn't flow from one animation to the next as smoothly as you'd like. So it doesn't look like a choreographed fight in the way that you want. But it's still cool because you're like, I was very smart to like move in this direction or move in that direction. So,
Bam.
It's great. From the first time I saw this concept shared on Twitter, I was like, that's a genius idea. And the way they've incorporated it into like the actual mechanics of the game is just really, really smart. Like I'm not huge into collectible card games, but this is one where I feel like it works. Really well, because I don't feel like I'm playing a card game. I feel like I'm playing a strategy game where my moves every turn are randomly determined. That's it, and I've got to make use of what is dealt to me. It's great. It's a good time.
Nice. That sounds cool.
Would recommend.
It's funny how when you told me before we started recording, you're like, I'm playing a game called Fights in Tight Spaces. Like, that sounds what a weirdly specifically named game. And then when you said it, I was like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's such a perfect name for the game. It's really, really perfect.
Very literal.
Yeah, extremely literal. It's like the amount of times I've played where I'm just like, wow, I'm surrounded by 4 people and I can hardly move. This really is a fight in tight
spaces. My God. Well,
I am planning to play Loop Hero soon because everyone's talking about that.
I've heard of Loop Hero, and it's because like you said, everyone's talking about it. And I looked up a trailer yesterday. It looks to me like is it a turn-based roguelike?
Sort of. So it's like it's a roguelike. It's also cards, but you aren't influencing the game directly. You're influencing it passively. So your cards are changing things on the map. And and the game loops automatically. So your hero goes through the same like route over and over again. But based on tiles and cards that you play, you change certain things within that world. So you've got to...
well, I'm glad you told me, because when I watched the trailer, I was like, like I know everyone's talking about this, but I don't know.
Well, I've bought it, so you can try it on Steam.
Oh my God, this is I can play Fights in Tight Spaces. I can play Loop Hero. My goodness. I bring nothing to this friendship. You can play Counter-Strike.
Well, you gave me Sekiro, so it's okay.
That's true. I gave you a physical card. So you've had a pretty busy week with your stuff. I'll just touch on what I've been playing briefly. So like super short, I 100%ed Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury.
Did you 100% 3D Land? 3D World, sorry.
3D World. And let me tell you, when I got this game, I thought it's like 10 hours for 3D World, maybe like from what reviews said, 2 or 3 hours for Bowser's Fury. It's like a 13-hour experience. Cool. I've played both for nearly 30 hours. Like,
yeah, you've been playing it for long.
And I always joke with you about this, but I seem to snort Mario games. Like literally
that gift you shared with me was very distressing.
But I just really enjoyed them. And like, I mean, I'm not going to go on too long about it. Like I said last week or the week before, Bowser's Fury is just, it's got me all kinds of excited for what the next Mario game will be. Like, I don't know if they will lean into this sort of formula because it feels very experimental. But like, hell yes, give me a open world-ish Mario game. And yeah, 3D Mario World, just interesting enough, the game's 8 years old. And
Is it 8 years old?
I don't think they changed much on it. Like, I can't tell you they added this content. I don't know if there were any new levels. And good Lord, it holds up. Like, it's so good. Like, I really, really enjoyed
How was some of those end stages? Because I know people say after the credits, there's some hardcore stages.
So, yeah, the credits roll, and then it feels... So there are some remixes of existing stages. So I think I mentioned last week, or I told you at some point, there's a level that's you play normally and it's cool, but when you play the remix version, it's entirely dark, and you get given like a fire power up to sort of light your way through the level, and it makes it like a lot harder.
I can imagine, yeah.
But the hardest level in 3D World is Champions Road, which just out of nowhere, it's like all the levels are challenging, but you play them enough times, you get it. But Champions Road was the one level in the entire game that to me felt a bit like a Celeste level, where it's like you have to grind your way through this level. And unlike Celeste, where like Celeste is usually one room, bar like the final few levels where it's it stretches across and it takes more than a minute to finish. This Champions Road, I've saved out the clip, was like 4.5 minutes of just straight up platforming challenges, and it's a real challenge. But it's the one Mario level where I'm like, I get why Mario games aren't difficult, because that's not what Nintendo do. Like, okay, not difficult, but they're not on the same level of difficulty as Celeste. Like, just to run with that example. But and this is outside Mario Maker, because those are obviously user created levels designed to make you pull your hair out. But when Nintendo do hard levels, my God, it's so good. Like Champions Road, I'll send you the clip if you want to check it out. It's like, it's just them doing Mario goodness, but like with a very difficult, with the difficulty ramped up. And I really enjoyed grinding my way through it. It took me like 2 to 3 hours to finish this one level. And it's a grind, but shit, when I did it, I was like, oh yes, this is a good time.
Is that the one that you were sharing clips of?
I shared, yeah, that's the one clip. Oh yeah, you saw the one clip on Twitter where, I don't know why, but at the end of this one jump,
great recovery, and then
I jumped and I was gonna land this jump perfectly, but I ended up rolling and then having to like roll 4 more times to save myself.
But you did, anyway. You recovered, and
I just died in the most useless way. God. Yeah,
it's like you'd used all your brain power on that one moment.
Yeah, but it's so good, and yeah, I think as a package, it's a must for Nintendo fans. Like I said, you probably will get 15 to 20 hours if you're just playing through the main campaigns. But if you 100% both, that's like a good 30 hours of content. And
jeez,
yeah, but Bowser's Fury, like I'm in love with this game. It's really got me excited for what's
so
next.
It didn't become stale after a while.
No, I mean, so when you roll credits on that game, you just get told like, oh hey, there's more catch-ons to go get, and it's this weird thing with Mario games where it's just fun to collect them. I mean, like the last Mario game you probably played properly is Odyssey. I mean, that game takes it to a new level where it's like there are 800 moonshines or whatever they are, and you're not gonna. That's like a proper grind to get all of them. But it ticked that box of you can play for 5 minutes and get a shine, and you're like, oh, like I did something. I want to go get more.
It's that little hit of dopamine, like very, very frequently.
And I rolled credits on both games. I was like, no, well, of course I'm going to keep on playing. I want to, finish every challenge, whatever.
Once you finish it, do you start to contend with Bowser?
Yes. So what happens is you kind of need him though, because like you remember.
Yeah, I was going to say there's some of those boxes that only he can destroy.
Boxes, yeah. When you get all of the shines though, you fight him like one final time. And it's like a harder version of him. And
Super Saiyan 2 Bowser.
Super Saiyan 2. And you can, when you've rolled credits again, because you get like credits again, you can go back into the world, but I haven't done that, so I don't know if he actually just appears all the time.
Super Saiyan again. God Bowser.
Yeah.
Got you. That's when Mario gets the blue hair.
Yeah. He goes full
This
Sonic
is some
mode.
deep Dragon Ball Z cuts here. Yeah.
Sonic cut, what are you talking about? Sonic's the guy with the blue. And then, yeah, my word, I said I was going to talk about that long, and we're really running long on time here, but it's seeing that you spoke about Sekiro, let me tell you about Nioh for a hot 5 minutes, which is basically...
You finished the first one,
I finished the first one. So when did it come out? It's like a month or two ago.
I thought you meant originally. I'm like, that was ages ago.
Oh, no. So Nioh's like a 4 or 5 year old game?
Yeah, around about there.
And
before Sekiro, I mean.
Yeah, and Nioh 2 came out last year, the year before. It's like not even that old.
Last year, yeah.
But they've basically repackaged both into one collection for PS5. So I never played either on the PS4. I can't tell you like, wow, on PS5 it runs beautifully compared to PS4. It does. It's 60 frames per second. And the load times always shock me on the PS5. It's
like
literally
super
like,
quick.
I'm going to go into this mission. I pick up my phone. I'm like, oh, I can't pick up my phone anymore. I'm there already. Nioh is basically it's interesting because it's also very much like Sekiro in the sense that it's a samurai game where, you're wielding a sword going through feudal Japan. But it doesn't at all play like Sekiro, which, it's not meant to. But the premise is the same. Look, I'm going to come out and say the story meant nothing to me. I can't say that I really knew what was going on. I was just going from A to B, beating bosses. It was a good time. But you essentially plays a Westerner named William running through Japan, trying to stop a war from happening. And Japan is, it's, you hear these urban legends of, there's a lot of these Japanese legends of, these demons and this and that. And this game sort of says like, no, that stuff's real. You get yokai and these demons that you fight normal people and demons between each mission. And yeah, I really did enjoy it. Like it was weird because when I first started the game, I was like, and it's not at all fair to do this, but I was comparing it to the likes of Bloodborne and Sekiro because it takes it came out before Sekiro, so it definitely took inspiration from the likes of Bloodborne and Dark Souls, and it's that thing of you grind through enemies, you get experience, you go to a campfire, whatever. In this game, it's a shrine. You level up, and if you die, you respawn. You have to go to your body to claim what you dropped, whatever. It also takes inspiration in that it is highly difficult, but like I've given it some thoughts, and I don't quite know how to explain it other than Nioh feels more arcadey in a sense. So if you play Bloodborne or Dark Souls, you know that if you fight a boss, it's almost like a weight to your attacks.
Yes.
From both sides. So you hit a boss, the boss hits you. There's almost like a weight to it where Nioh feels like it's floaty in a sense. Like I don't know if that makes sense.
More like character action-y.
Yeah, it makes sense because this studio they've made games like that before.
Ninja Gaiden,
yeah, which is very much like this fast-paced, character action sort of game. And it's a weird thing to adjust to because in Bloodborne, for example, like you can go fight a hard boss and you can take a hit and you can heal, and you can take a hit and you can heal. You can take a couple of hits, you can heal. Whereas Nioh, maybe the way I was playing, the way I was playing is I was equipping light armor because, then I get more stamina. Whereas if you equip heavier armor, you can do less attacks, which you.
So there is like role-playing elements to it.
There's 100%. Like when you level up, you are choosing to level up, your health or your attack or, very similar to Dark Souls in the sense that like there's maybe like 8-ish different things to level up and they all do something different. But like the way I was playing it, I like to be aggressive, so I had light armor, meaning I could do more attacks, but it also meant that I could get hit once or twice and I died. Like not just from a boss, from any random NPC, whatever.
From the little guard that protects the boss.
Exactly. And it is a weird thing to adjust to because it feels like the game's unforgiving sometimes, like unfairly so. But it's maybe just the way I played. But the more I played it, the more look, I finished it. It was a 40-hour game for me. And that's quite long given that I reached a point where I just mainlined the game. There are tons of side quests and I just said, nah, I don't really want to do them. I'm just going to mainline the game 40 hours later. So
my goodness.
Definitely lengthy. But the more I played it, the more I got into it and the more I sort of appreciated their spin on the, the Souls-like genre, whatever. And what's cool is that they introduce their spin on this sort of genre is that you obviously get a whole host of different weapons. You wield a sword, wield an axe, a whole bunch of different things. But the game gives you stances to play with. So you've got 3 stances, low, mid, and high. And they're pretty self-explanatory in that a low stance is, you holding your weapon low. You'll be quicker with it. You can do more attacks, but they do less damage. Whereas a high stance is like your attacks take longer, but they do more damage. So it is interesting experimenting with the different weapons, trying to figure out, what stance do I do? What sort of play style do I like? And yeah, weirdly enough, I started the game with dual swords, and by the end, I had a spear, which is something I never play with. Just because it had the range, I could like attack
And the
from
gameplay
far.
like changes drastically between weapons, right?
Yeah, like yes and no. It feels like my biggest criticism I feel is that some games. So I'm just gonna run with Bloodborne because that's one that's on top of my mind. Where even like Dark Souls, you'll find a lot of different weapons in your playthrough. You'll go, oh, like I've got this sword, but I've just picked up this axe, and I'm gonna play with this axe, and then like 5 hours later, you go, oh shit, I've picked up this whip or whatever, and I want to change to this whip. Whereas Nioh, all that changes is that you more or less have access to every kind of weapon at the beginning of the game. And all that changes as you play is that you find higher level equipment. So it's got one thing it does very differently to anything else that I've played in, the Souls-like genre is that it's very grindy in that you get gear. So isn't a thing of you equip a specific armor set, whatever. You'll fight your way through a level, and by the end of it, you've got tons of armor and weapons and stuff that think of like Diablo. Of you'll grind your way through, and you pick up 5 versions of the same weapon, and you have to go, oh well, which one? Do I want to equip this? It's got slightly better attack, but this changes what I want to do, and that changes through the game. So you've got access to like every weapon at the beginning, but as you play, you unlock higher level versions of X weapon, whatever, and you just have to keep swapping out as you level up, whatever. So like it's different, but I did enjoy it at the end of the day. Like I'm gonna play Nioh 2. I just needed I need a bit of a some palate cleansing before I dive back into another 40
50 hour tough game. Yeah.
Well, I'm interested to see like the criticisms I have of the game. I wonder if they did address them. Like I suppose just to recap quickly, the game, there's a reason I avoided the side missions because they take the main missions you've done and they just either start you somewhere differently or they change the enemy placement.
It's just very recycled. Okay.
It's super recycled to the point where like one of the first levels I could play the same level. I played 3 different side missions that use the same level. And I'm like,
yeah.
And it almost feels like it was unnecessary because like I said, I mainlined the game and there are levels and it says to you, oh, this level requires, it's recommended that you level 130, whatever. That's like the final mission. I was level like 105 and I still managed to beat the main mission because it feels like towards the end game specifically, like any upgrades you get are so minuscule. Like if you're into number crunching and stuff, cool. Like, go do all the
They're not really like, you're not seeing a big impact on the way you play the game.
Which makes sense, right? Like even in a Souls game, when you start off, if you have 500 health and you put 1 point into vitality and you get an extra 50 health, you're like, wow, that's a 10% increase. But if you like end game, you've got 1,000 health and you put that point in, you get like 50 health. Like, oh, that's like a 5%
it really
increase.
tapers off.
It tapers off. Yeah, it just feels like Nioh tapers off a lot in the end game where it's like there's so many different stats. They do such minuscule like look, they all add up obviously, but it feels like to me an unnecessary grind that I just chose to skip. So
yeah,
but look,
I've
really
heard nothing
game.
but good things about the sequel. So everyone who's played the sequel has said that it's phenomenal. So I'm curious. I started playing the sequel just briefly, but then I stopped because I was like, no, I'm playing Sekiro. I'm going to fuck with both of these games if I try to do this. Yeah.
Hats off to them because I think the game itself, I can see why it's so like highly acclaimed. I think Nioh is loved by many people. And I can see why. I have my own issues with the game, but that doesn't change the fact that it's a really well made and good game. Like,
yeah,
I would recommend it if you're looking for a challenging, sort of, I suppose, RPG, I guess, if you can call it that. I mean, it is an RPG, it's just super challenging. So yeah, that's that. That's what I've been playing.
Nice full stack of games this week. Should we move on to game releases?
Yes. Give me 1 second to pull that up. Why did I close this thing? I got it.
Okay, so we are looking at games releasing from today, March 13th, until March 19th.
Good Lord.
Can you believe? So let me just highlight what's going on here. Okay. Nothing too hectic. I feel like this month is very loaded near the end of the month with like bigger games.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got Mandon. I don't know. Mandon. Let me
Where
check.
are we? We're in April.
No, we're in March.
March. We're nearly April.
We're nearly April.
Where's this year going? My goodness.
Mandon is a lovingly hand-penciled horror tale set in a dark, secluded valley of the Alps. Explore various areas full of secrets to discover, survive hostile encounters, drive vehicles, fill your inventory, and solve a variety of handcrafted puzzles. Oh, it's actually a city or a mountain range in Switzerland.
Oh.
I
There you
like the
go.
look of this game. It's very striking. This pencil art style is very it's very spooky. It really
Is
works.
this Mandon?
Yeah, Mandon.
Mandon.
If I'm saying that right, yeah. Looks cool. So that's out on PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series, and Switch on March 16th. Then we've got Star Dynasties on Steam Early Access. Okay. On March 16th.
Stuff.
Then we've got this game that apparently was announced way back in like I think 2013 and then like disappeared for a really long time. Stubbs the Zombie in Rebel Without a Pulse.
Who asked for this?
I don't know.
Is it a good game?
I don't know. I've seen snippets of it and I'm just like, okay.
Okay, cool.
That's PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch, March 16th. Got Signs of the Sojourner coming to PS4, Switch, and Xbox One on various dates across the week. Yeah.
It's like they need 1 day each, like
Yeah.
per platform.
Cartel Tycoon, Steam Early Access on PC. I assume this is like Roller Coaster Tycoon, but drugs.
With drugs.
Yeah, and you're
Exciting
putting
times.
cocaine in those roller coaster carts.
I
now.
think you mean is the cartel say cocaine.
Cocaine, yes. Maybe you're just building a theme park in Pablo Escobar's estate.
And before you go on a ride, you get some cocaine.
Yes. There's also a separate part of the park where you can just stand in an empty pool.
Just stare. Go, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's out on Steam Early Access March 18th. Then you've got Neurodeck March 18th on PC and Switch, which I have to assume has to do something with cards. You don't put deck in your name for nothing. And then the last game, Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville Complete Edition coming to Switch. That's, I think, not mistaken, like the third shooter-like spin-off of the series.
Have you played any of these shooters
No.
in the series?
I've heard they're okay. Like, I've heard they are much better than they deserve to be, but again, not something that's going to like light your world on fire, if that makes sense.
I mean, I love the OG Plants vs. Zombies back in the day, number 1 and 2. But I can't say I've ever, played anything else in the franchise.
I love the originals, yeah.
Yeah,
I really like
time.
the originals. But yeah, that is what's coming this week.
Games out this week. Shall we get to that gaming news?
Yes. Do you want to kick things off?
Shall we just start with the biggest announcement this week, which is Microsoft's acquisition of Bethesda.
Finally
officially official. Now, maybe you can clarify. I always thought we knew this was happening, right? So like it wasn't a big surprise, but just the fact that it was finalized this week is like the big deal. Like it's actually happening or it's happened. Okay, because in my head I'm like, isn't it happening? Like, do we not know this?
So basically, in September of last year, Microsoft announced that they were doing this. Microsoft and Bethesda, like the deal was made that this was going to go through, but the way these big conglomerate purchases happen is they have to go through various stages of confirmations from competition committees, and it has to be in various regions. So Microsoft and Bethesda got approval from America's SEC pretty early, but then they had to wait for a judge to rule on the competition committee in the EU. And obviously, if they want to sell games in the EU, they need to get that approval. And
Yeah.
that ruling only came in last week. So that's why it took this long. And between the announcement in September and them confirming, Microsoft and Bethesda weren't working together because legally they weren't allowed to.
They weren't allowed to. Okay.
So they weren't allowed to make any contracts for future games. They weren't allowed to make any plans. Like they had a roundtable on Thursday this week where Phil Spencer said, "Yeah, we literally haven't spoken about, a lot of the things that people were wondering in September. Microsoft couldn't answer because they hadn't had those discussions yet."
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Why things like Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo are still only for PS5 because none of those discussions have been made yet.
Is Ghostwire Tokyo also a PS5 exclusive?
Yeah, timed exclusive, yes.
And is Deathloop a timed exclusive?
Yes, as far as I can tell. Because it's coming to PC as well, both of them.
Okay. Well, yeah. So I mean, that's quite something, I think, because Bethesda's.
It's big,
I mean, $7.5 billion deal. $1 billion deal.
If you had to ask me, I think Microsoft got it for a steal. When you consider that includes all the studios, so that's 8 studios, including like Machine Games, id Software, Arcane, Bethesda Game Studios, Tango Gameworks, all of that. But it also includes all the IP. So Microsoft owns things like Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Doom, Wolf, all these big. Microsoft owns Doom. Like that is fucking crazy.
Listen, I'm waiting for the Master Chief and Doom crossover game, whatever it's called.
It's gonna happen. Just them two doing like the handshake from Predator, that like, you son of a bitch, and it's just like, I need that gif in my life.
Son of a bitch. I'm sure that exists. That has to exist.
It has to exist.
What's interesting about this deal? So obviously, moving forward, like Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo aside, everything future Bethesda is. I mean, look, Microsoft own both, obviously, but I have to believe that all future Bethesda stuff will be PC and Xbox exclusive to some degree. I don't know. Maybe they make the decision of like, well, we publish it on PS5 anyway because we still make money.
Yes.
So,
well,
I don't know, but
so here's the thing. That's always been the question. Like from the day this was announced, everyone's been saying, well, what happens? What does this mean for exclusives? And because Microsoft hadn't been able to make those have those conversations, they couldn't answer them. And there's always vagueness around there. It was like, it'll be a case-by-case basis, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like in the roundtable this week, Phil Spencer gave the most direct and to me, the most, like, there are still people that find his statement, like, vague. And I'm just like, no, you are now living in a dream world.
So what did he say? Well,
so this was his exact quote.
Yes, the one I've got here. Although maybe, because the one I've got here, I think was from the Xbox article, like the press release, where he basically said, with the addition of the Bethesda creative teams, gamers should know that Xbox consoles, PC, and Game Pass will be the best place to experience new Bethesda games, including some new titles in the future that will be exclusive to Xbox and PC players.
Yeah, so that was definitely in Xbox Wire, yeah.
Yeah. So it's very much like you said, if you think otherwise, you are living in a dream world, because Phil Spencer himself has said, that in the future, including some new titles in the future that will be exclusive to Xbox and PC.
I'm just trying to find his exact quote on the roundtable, because it was he left himself room in a very interesting way. So okay, I think I found it. So he said, if you're an Xbox customer, the thing I want you to know is that this is about delivering great exclusive games for you that ship on platforms where Xbox Game Pass exists. That's our goal. That's why we're doing this. That's the root of this partnership that we're building and the creative capability we will be able to bring to the market for our Xbox customers. It's going to be the best it's ever been for Xbox after we're done here. So he's saying wherever Game Pass exists. And that's interesting because I have to assume that they are trying their best to get Xbox Game Pass on things like Switch and PlayStation. And I don't think that will ever happen. Like, I don't see the value in I don't see why Sony would invite
Ever
that
do
onto
that,
their platform. But it does, he says that to keep that window open. But at the same time, he said that every Bethesda game is not exclusive due to contractual obligations. But he's basically saying future Xbox, so what that really means is stuff like Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo. Those are contracts that Bethesda signed well before this, so they can't cancel those. And I think in the same way, he's not going to suddenly be like, the Elder Scrolls Online or Fallout 76 is only going to be on Xbox, because then you're abandoning a community that's already built up.
Yeah.
But for new games, there is no reason for them to put them on consoles where Game Pass doesn't exist, just like he says. And I think, again, people are like, oh no, but Elder Scrolls is an exception. Why? Why is it an exception? Like,
don't know.
Like, why would that be an exception when stuff like Halo and Gears of War are not exceptions? Like, it doesn't make sense.
I don't know.
You are living in a dream world if you think that Microsoft paid $7.5 billion to just put the games on its competing hardware without any benefit.
Yeah, for sure.
If Game Pass comes to PlayStation, fuck yeah, they'll put it there, no problem.
My goodness.
But why would they just publish the game and then not push if they publish Elder Scrolls 6 on PlayStation, it doesn't push people towards Game Pass.
No.
It doesn't matter if it's day and date free on Game Pass. That still doesn't push them there, because they still have the option to get it somewhere else. So
on the topic of Game Pass, I mean, so this announcement happened let's say
Thursday
Wednesday,
as well.
it was a Wednesday, Thursday, and then a big drop of, which was to be expected. Bethesda's now an Xbox owned company, so you have 20 games. I think some of these were available on Game Pass already. Like I know Doom Eternal was available. I think Rage 2 was available. But now these have been supplemented. Even Dishonored 2, I think, was available. But now these have been supplemented with a full collection of a shit ton of Bethesda titles, including Fallout 4, Fallout 76, Fallout New Vegas. You've got Wolfenstein. You've got Prey. You've got Rage 2. You've got Doom 1993 through to Doom 64 and Doom
wild.
Eternal.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, I don't know, is the OG Doom on here?
Yeah, so there are some omissions. So OG Doom's not there. Doom 2016's not there. Evil Within 2, funnily enough, not there.
It's just Evil Within 1. Okay,
yeah, Wolfenstein 2 is also not there. Don't know why.
But I mean, I have to believe at some stage they will be. But still,
I'm sure. I'm not sure why that they were excluded from this drop, but I assume they're coming
at some stage. But I mean, this is like if you on. So look, not everything. Although most of these are on PC. But regardless, if you're they're all on PC. If you're a Game Pass subscriber, this is like a big deal. I think this is huge. And it's a sign of things to come, right? Like we've known for years now that Game Pass is like Microsoft are banking on this big time to not only get people to subscribe to play other games, but it's a huge deal when it's like, oh, hey, the new Halo's coming out. You can get it for $10 a month on Game Pass. You can buy it, or you can pay the subscription to get it and all these other games. And there's some heavy hitters here. So I can't say I've played like Doom Eternal, the OG Doom, which isn't even here. But like Prey, I know is like this underrated cult hit. Everyone who's played it is like, please play Prey. Now you can. It's on Game Pass. You've said recently, like you went back and you played Dishonored 2.
Oh yeah.
Again, really like good. This underrated game where, interestingly enough, like it reviews well, but not a lot of people play them. I think it's such
you're describing Arcane games now. Arcane just makes phenomenal games that people don't play. My God, where did I find the time?
But like all these, this is a big game for Bethesda as well. I mean, like all these games of theirs are now going to get reach an even bigger audience. And the future of Bethesda, man, like Elder Scrolls 6, whenever that decides to come out, what's the other one? Starfield.
Starfield, yeah.
Whenever that decides to come out, they're probably going to be day one Game Pass games, and that's insane.
People can give shit to Microsoft about purchasing developers all they want, and yes, we absolutely do not want to be in a situation where there's only 2 or 3 publishers who own everything. We don't want a situation where we find what is happening to the entertainment industry and Disney, essentially.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's a few factors that you've got to remember here. Firstly, Bethesda was looking for a buyer. Microsoft didn't hunt them down.
No.
And I think Microsoft was probably the best outcome that we could have envisioned, because as we've seen with studios like Mojang and all the other ones that they've purchased, Microsoft is kind of a very hands-off approach. They are letting Bethesda just function as Bethesda. They are not changing anything about Bethesda.
Well, which brings me to my next question of, so look, I know they own Bethesda, but in my head, Bethesda Studios do not fall under the Xbox Game Studios banner. I don't know if that's true.
So they will.
It's interesting. Will they? Okay.
Yes, but Bethesda as a brand is still going to exist.
Yes, so that's what I mean. It's still like, it's Bethesda still separately. You're not going to say like, oh, Elder Scrolls 6 was made by Xbox Game Studios. It's like,
no,
Bethesda
it will be Bethesda Game Studios. Okay. And I mean, they've got so much autonomy that they are going to be hosting their own event during E3. That is separate from Microsoft's event. So like, it gives them the sort of financial stability to continue doing what they do. And especially for developers like Arcane and Tango Gameworks, who make really, really good games that often don't sell as well as they deserve to. This gives them a platform to continue making those, in my opinion, genre-defining titles, without the risk of Bethesda, struggling financially to say, we cannot make these projects anymore. Yeah. So, and then on top of it, Sony tried to buy the rights to Starfield. So,
oh, did they?
Yeah, there was a report that came out just after Microsoft made the purchase of Bethesda that Sony was in discussions with Bethesda to attain exclusivity rights to Starfield. So, you can bitch all you want about Microsoft buying exclusives. That is the game now. Sony understands that's the game now. They don't have the pockets that Microsoft does. But at the same time, Sony has fostered this amazing culture of their exclusives over time. Yeah. That, they can lean on for it. I mean, it's driving them through this gen already, so
it's interesting because like $7.5 billion is a lot of money, no doubt about it.
It's a ton of money, yeah.
It feels like it's Microsoft. It's like almost pocket change to them. And I feel it's such an interesting purchase, and I think good for both companies. Like I think I've said Bethesda will benefit, and I do think Microsoft will benefit in the long run.
100%, yeah.
Like Elder Scrolls itself is like this massive franchise where Elder Scrolls 6 I think is going to sell big time.
It's going to as a Microsoft exclusive is going to be massive.
Like, and Elder Scrolls 5 came out a long time ago. It was a PS3 game, I think. Yeah. It's been a long time since we've had that, and the meme is it's available on everything, including like your fridge and your printer. It's going to sell massively. And like even that itself is like, wow, like what a brand. Then you consider Doom and Fallout and all these other big IPs. And then like you say, Arcane are really good at making these different out there games that I think you never know what the next, apart from Deathloop, like what's happening next? What is their next big IP going to be? You don't know. Like it's exciting for Xbox fans
I'm super
and
excited.
PC, to be honest. Like if you're on PC, you get the best of both, because now PlayStation's also bringing PlayStation games to PC. So
I find it funny that for years, throughout the Xbox One era, the argument is always Microsoft needs exclusives. Then Microsoft makes this big acquisition that gives them exclusives, and people go, no, but financially they have to put them on PlayStation. Like, what the fuck do you want? Like, come on.
It's Microsoft, for goodness sake.
And also like, the argument has been they need exclusives. Now they get exclusives. Now it's suddenly like, no, they can't do that.
I don't know. I don't think this console war is ever going to die, because fanboys will keep it alive. Yeah. But I have to believe that at some stage that vocal minority matures and goes, you know what, I can just be happy playing my game on the platform I want. Like the outrage over Days Gone coming to PC. I'm like,
oh god, it's so stupid, man. It's
why?
So dumb.
Like, look, I get people enjoy the game. I think it's an okay game, but you got to play it.
It's a very okay game.
Like you played it. It's fun for other people to play it too.
Exactly. Like,
I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
Anyways, so that I think is the big news this week. Microsoft
I'm
getting
curious
Bethesda.
to see how it. I mean, they said that more news on future games is coming this summer, which means E3 time. So
Oh boy.
hopefully we'll get an update on Starfield or
Elder Scrolls.
no, I think that's only coming after Starfield's
Hey,
finished.
we got a JPEG like 3 years ago. They have to give us
Jesus,
something.
It's
Like,
the
come on.
dumbest thing. So yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see, maybe id gives a hint as to what they're working on, or a Machine Games is working on Indiana Jones, that thing that they teased.
Oh,
So
that too. Let me tell you,
So, yeah.
Ed needs to bring back Quake. I think it's time.
can you believe that Shinji Mikami is now a Microsoft employee?
It's crazy.
Wild.
It's
Absolutely
insane.
crazy.
Give us Schmezard and Schmeevel.
Yeah, just give us suburb misdeeds one.
Wow. Suburban mishaps. What?
Yeah, suburban mishaps.
My goodness.
It's not Spencer Mansion. It's
oh my
shit,
god! It's full Spencer Mansion.
No.
It's Howard Mansion. Oh, no.
Yeah, it's Howard Mansion. God.
Okay, what news do you want to bounce
Major
to?
Nelson's Mansion.
Well, we'll spend some time on that.
Well, let's do these quick. Well, since we're on Xbox, let's just talk about this real quick. Halo Infinite got a 40-minute developer diary where they were answering questions from fans and just chatting about certain things. A lot of the video is them getting ideas from fans and them going, yeah, no, it's not happening.
That's nice. But
that was a bit weird. But there's some tidbits in here that are quite interesting, I think. So I don't know if this some of these might only make sense to long-standing Halo fans, but there's going to be no dual wielding in Halo Infinite, which is interesting because that's been a thing since Halo 2. One of the things I found super interesting was that the game isn't described. They don't describe it as open world. They almost, the way they talk about it, it makes me think of wide linear. So a lot of Halo's missions, and the reason Halo is so revered is that it has these almost big sandbox missions. Like in Halo 1, which came out in early 2000s, you had the Silent Cartographer, which was this massive space that definitely had a route it wanted you to follow, but you could go about it in any different way. And at the time, that was just incredible. So they say Infinite is that expanded. So there's definitely a linear route that you follow, and there are definitely locked in story beats, but how you get around there is really up to you.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, because to me it gives the game a bit more structure. They're not making Far Cry Halo, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's cool.
Far Halo.
Yeah, Far Halo. There's day-night cycles that affect when enemies appear and what enemies appear, which is interesting. Equipment is playing a big role in this game, so you won't have weapon upgrades, but you will be able to upgrade your equipment in different ways, which helps you get around or gives you different options in combat. And then what I think is the most interesting thing is the Halo, the actual ring, is a 3D model. It's not a skybox. It's not just an image in the sky. So sort of like Zelda, if you see a thing on the horizon, it is there. You can get there. But cool. Also, if you are good enough, you can kind of knock people off the ring, which is amazing. Which I think is fucking hilarious. So yeah, but it's cool because it's 3D rendered. They say at certain times of the day, the sun will eclipse the ring,
blind you,
because it's actually moving past a physical object as opposed to just a skybox. So that's pretty cool.
Look, I'm interested to see how this game turns out, because the gameplay that was shown last year was met with big criticism by a lot of people.
Visually, it looked bad, but I thought the ideas that they showed off were pretty cool. I'm a big Halo fan, so it looked it looked like fucking Halo, so that's cool.
Yeah.
But every time they speak about this game and now, the things that they are getting ready for launch, I'm getting more and more excited about it. I definitely think the delay was worth it. Because it seems like they had all these ideas that they wanted to put in, but the first impression was going to absolutely kill the game. And that would have been a shame. So I think there's a lot of stress to be part of this
I'm
project.
sure.
There's
My
so
goodness.
much riding on this project.
It's Halo. It's like Xbox's poster game.
Yeah, I can't imagine the
So-
amount of stress 343 is under right now. But like I said, every time they talk about it, it sounds like they are getting it right. So I'm
I
stoked.
mean, I don't think there's ever a problem with the game being delayed for to improve it.
Yep.
So,
Keen.
depends how
Keen
much
for
time
it.
you give them, but
I'm super. I'm sure they are very nervous about the very first time they show off gameplay again, because
Yeah.
that's going to be a big thing.
that's gonna.
Yeah.
It's gonna be. And look, people will find fault
Of course.
always, but
Of
like
course.
that first gameplay review, I feel like universally. I mean, there were some people like, "Oh, it's fine," but a lot of people like, "Oof, that's not the Halo."
Their next gameplay reveal could go two ways. It could go, oh, okay, this is why it was delayed, like huge, or it could be like, I don't understand why it was delayed.
Back
You
to
know
the
what I mean?
drawing. No,
Yeah.
I don't know. I have to believe it's the former. They've getting it right.
They have to
So
really knock it out the park.
Let's see. Shall we bounce to? I suppose these two stories, like you mentioned, they tie in together. So, Tomb Raider Definitive Survivor Trilogy appears on the Microsoft Store. So I think this was a leak or unintentional, a little anniversary package coming to celebrate the 25-year anniversary of Tomb Raider with the latest 3 games in one bundle, which is pretty cool. I think I really like the reboot franchise. I love Tomb Raider. I love Rise of the Tomb Raider. And I didn't talk about it, but I am playing through Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which is the weakest of the trilogy, but it's still fun. I'm having a good time with it. And if you're a big fan or you've never played these games, I think it's a pretty solid trilogy to.
I'd play Rise of the Tomb Raider again. Like if it
Rise
came
of the
with
Tomb Raider was real good. Even Tomb Raider, just if you come in knowing that like you're expecting Tomb Raiders from yesteryear, you'll be blown away by. I always find it interesting that Uncharted took inspiration from the OG Tomb Raiders, and then it feels like the modern Tomb Raiders took inspiration from Uncharted because
Yes,
they're very
definitely.
similar in the way.
yeah,
they play.
they started creating like the little hubs and
Yeah.
It's interesting to watch the progression of that series through the 3 games, and I definitely agree with you. I think Shadow is the weakest, even though it's the most
It's super
samey. Like
Holy
it's
shit.
pretty, and I like the stealth, but I also just find it very boring for large swaths of the game.
Yeah. Something feels off, but I'll talk about that more.
It's so difficult to
when-
pin down. It just doesn't feel right. Something just
Yeah.
doesn't click correctly there. But I thought Rise was like incredible. I think Rise
Yeah.
is like up there with even some of the highest highs of the Uncharted franchise. So if
Yeah.
that comes, especially to like, if that comes to PS5 and has some cool DualSense functionality, I'm there. I'll play that.
I'm
again.
there for bow action. But so the reason I said this ties together is that Square Enix are having a digital showcase event next week, and like it's confirmed that it'll show off the next Life is Strange, which is cool. But I'm like, it's
people
Square
are super
Enix.
excited about it. Yeah.
Where is Final Fantasy 16? Are we going to see that? Are we going to have this Tomb Raider trilogy officially confirmed? Don't know.
Oh, listen, they basically laid out what they were showing off there. So I think expecting big updates on Final Fantasy, especially like remake or something like that, or like a new Tomb Raider, I think is, if they are saying this is what we're going to talk about, and you're going, okay, I got you, but what about this? Like you're just setting yourself up for disappointment.
No, I get it. But I'm not even talking about remake. I'm like, Final Fantasy 16. What's going on there?
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, that's happening. So
That's happening. Yeah, I'm curious to see. I'm also hoping that Square Enix has polished these showcases up, because I think the last time they did one was E3, where they showed off like the same fucking Kingdom Hearts trailer for like the fourth time,
that
and then
was a
without
train
audio,
smash.
and then
that Kingdom Hearts trailer, it was missing. What is it? It was missing like background
music or
noise
something. Yeah, and then they
It
showed
was
off the
literally
Quiet
ju-
Man, which was a complete fucking mess.
Yeah. Okay, so that's happening. Is this coming week? When is it?
Yeah, I think it is this coming week.
I do not see a date, but I do believe it is this coming week. So yeah. Look out
Also,
for
this
that.
coming week,
March
we
18th.
didn't
there
we
you
didn't
go.
put it
So
on
I'm just
news,
blind.
but it happened yesterday. Dying Light is getting a developer update on March 17th, which is like the first time the game has been spoken about since its delay in January 2020. So
I'm very keen for that game because I enjoyed the shit out of Dying Light. Like,
same.
I feel that game is severely underrated as well. Like, I think it reviewed well. It has its fan base, but I'm very keen. I mean, back then that was like a parkour simulator with zombies, and it was real good.
It worked so well. Yeah.
It was so good. So I'm very keen to see, what they do with the sequel. Yeah. Well, what should we fly through next?
Let's just quickly touch on this Roblox stuff. So Roblox is interesting because if you have a kid, you probably know what Roblox is because this game is just huge amongst young audiences. Yeah. But essentially, it's like Roblox isn't so much a game. It's more a platform for people to make games. Like no programming experience, no nothing. Think of like Mario Maker, but or Little Big Planet for that matter, but far more accessible. So it's on smartphones, it's on console. I think it's on consoles.
I'm not sure, but yeah.
But essentially, so if you're a creator, you create game experiences or assets, and then people can pay in-game currencies to play the things that you've made. And it's been going on for years. Like people have made money.
Yeah, it's been around for a long time.
I've read accounts of like teenagers who say during high school they were making games and they were earning like $50,000 a month from this thing.
Joel.
Yeah, like
you're in the wrong field. You should make games in Roblox.
Absurd amounts of money. So it went public this week. The company went public, and they are now, based on their current stock price, valued at just over $38 billion, which, to give you perspective, makes them more valuable than EA, almost twice as valuable as Take-Two, and almost 4 times as valuable as Ubisoft. It's also like 15 times more than what Microsoft paid for Minecraft. So Roblox, huge.
For 5 times more than what they paid for Bethesda.
Yeah, it's huge. Like Roblox, I mean, I read a lot of their, they obviously have to provide documents when they go public, laying out a lot of things, for investors. And there was pages and pages on risk management, and they were very, I'm sure legally they have an obligation to be, but very upfront about 2020 being a sort of anomaly year for the thing because of the pandemic, and they don't expect the growth to be the same. The same every year, and that they still don't. They make a net loss on a lot of these things. So creators are still getting money, but the company itself needs to find different ways to generate revenue. So
I found that interesting that, like, because surely the creators are taking they're taking a percentage of what the creators make.
But it could be that the platform is still very expensive to develop.
To run,
So, but it's an interesting company that I think, it flies under a lot of people's radar because we focus on the games that interest us. But, every time I read about this, whenever I go into the comments, it's always parents who are like, oh yeah, my kid loves this. My kid loves this. And, it has like millions of players.
Yeah. I mean, if you've never seen Roblox before, like you've said, people make games on this platform. And like I've seen tons of videos of people making Call of Duty, for example, in Roblox, where it's very much like it looks like Lego. It's like a very Lego-ish aesthetic to a degree. And
it almost looks like off-brand Lego.
Yeah. It's like, Mom, we want Lego at home. We already have Lego at home.
Yeah.
And it's Roblox.
You've got Mega Blocks. Yeah.
So that's interesting. It's like worth so much cash monies.
Should we fly through the last 2 or 3 here?
Yeah, Rust servers were destroyed in a huge blaze. Large amounts of game data lost.
Yeah, that sucks, man. It's these big. I mean, it wasn't just Rust servers. It was a whole stack of servers in Europe that just caught. The fire was like pretty fucking wild as well. So I feel bad for them because they basically couldn't recover any of their data. So a lot of EU players just got their shit wiped. Also, it's Rust. Your shit gets wiped all the time. Like the servers reset constantly. So Yeah, it sucks for now if you had a very cool like house that you were like, built up near a beach and were just killing new players out. Yeah. Listen, I still don't like Rust. I don't know if you can tell. But
Interesting.
Yeah, it sucks for the developers either way. That's a shit thing to have to deal with.
Yeah, and I think the last thing we'll touch on is Phasmophobia. I need to play this game with you. I would love to play Phasmophobia with you. But the latest update stabilizes the game and lets ghosts follow your voice, which
that's very
it's
cool.
kind of terrifying to imagine because the way the game works now. So I think the first few hours you play Phasmophobia, and even beyond that, like there are moments that will terrify you because it's like, oh my God, there's a ghost that appears and it hunts you, and you obviously need to try, there are objectives to meet in order for you to get a payout. But there are, I suppose, hiccups with the game in that that if a ghost starts to hunt you, you just go hide in a room, close the door, nothing's going to happen, whatever. But it seems like the developer is just obviously taking these things into account and constantly updating the game so I know, for example, if I go into a building that the ghost sort of spawns over there and it's only ever going to be in that part of the building.
Oh, don't the ghosts move?
No, they do, but it's like they'll chase you, but then they'll disappear and then they'll almost respawn in like the same area.
Okay.
Whereas it feels like now there are changes being made that the ghost like sort of has a wider reign of the building. And there are things like it will follow your voice, which is terrifying because the true way to play Phasmophobia, you don't use Discord. You mute your Discord and you use in-game communication. So there's proximity chat. So obviously when you're in the same room as someone, you can talk. But if they're on the other side of the house or the building, you have a walkie-talkie. So you are using in-game communication, which is terrifying to think that if I'm busy talking to someone on the other side of the building and the ghost is near me, it'll hear me and I'll come and find me, which was not a thing previously.
Okay. That's wild.
Yeah.
I just, from a gameplay perspective, that's amazing. But also for me, the tech perspective of that is fucking insane. Like, I would love to know how that works.
How it actually works.
Yeah.
Look, the games, it's a good time. I'd say even if you're not a fan of horror games, I think the fact that you're playing with up to 3 friends, ghost hunting, it's like I've had some of the best laughs in this game. Like, as terrifying as it can be, it's so much fun. Like, I love playing Phasmophobia. So I'm glad it's getting constant updates, and it's updates that are obviously making the game better and, more terrifying, which is not a good thing, but but yeah, I think that is all the news this week. I don't know if there's anything else to touch on.
That's about it.
Oh, wait, no. This is a story you nitpicked yourself.
Yeah. So if you there's a video, maybe I'll put it in the show notes, but there's a YouTuber in the States who managed to build a scale replica of Cloud's Buster Sword. And as you all know, that sword is stupid because it just makes no physical sense. Like, it's so top heavy on one end, and to try and pick it up on the other just seems impossible.
Just crazy, yeah.
So this YouTuber he bought an exoskeleton. It's an exoskeleton that's passively powered, so there's no motor in it, and it's mainly used for camera operations. So if you're holding, cameras for shows for a long time, it just helps you make it feel light. And he managed to pick up the sword using this thing. And it's a 12-minute video. It's a real trip. It's fun. Like, it's just a fun video. So yeah, go check out YouTuber bought an exoskeleton to wield a Buster Sword. Yeah. Obviously he can like pick up the sword, but he can't do anything with it. So clearly Cloud is Cloud's hiding some muscles under those noodle arms,
But yeah, then I guess that is now news. We couldn't leave that bit out.
He just kind of spins that sword after each battle, and his arms would be huge if he did that for real. So clearly there's some smoke and mirrors here.
My goodness,
he's channeling the soul of Zack. That's the only reason he's strong.
He's so strong. But yeah, that is now news. I don't actually know if we got any questions this week. Did we get anything on email?
Oh, on email, I'll double check, but I know we got some on Twitter.
Did we get on Twitter?
We got nothing on email. But if you want to send us a question on email, you can email us, checkpointchatpodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media at Checkpoint Chat on Twitter, on Facebook. It's Checkpoint Chat Podcast on TikTok because someone was an asshole.
Yeah, someone stole our name, which it's so interesting because for the longest time I was like, I need to make a Checkpoint Chat account to,
This is really
claim
your
the name,
fault.
but I never really thought someone would actually go and claim Checkpoint Chat. So
Unbelievable. Even with our
Checkpoint Chat
logo as well.
podcast.
Unbelievable.
badly cropped.
Yeah.
Like that's what made me the most angry. Like at least
If you're gonna
steal it
steal from us,
properly.
just do it right. God.
My goodness.
But yeah. So do we have questions?
Oh, we do have questions. Okay, we have three
we're also on
questions
Instagram,
from
I guess.
Megs. Okay, so question one: which is better, Prey 2006 or Prey 2017? Did you play Prey 2006?
I never played 2006, no. So I can't really tell you.
Prey 2006, I played that, and that was a real good time. I enjoyed the shit out of it.
I've heard it's a good game, yeah. I think they are very different games, though.
They're super different. Yeah.
I think they're only the same in the name, to be entirely honest. Yeah.
Yeah, the original Prey was like you were a
You're a
Native
bounty hunter, weren't you?
American called Tommy, I think, and like aliens invade Earth. And I wonder, Prey for me was interesting. So Portal came later, if I'm not mistaken.
Portal was 2007.
So Prey then really was messing around with like portal technology where you
Now
could
you're
like
thinking
run
with
through a portal
Preys.
and appear. Yeah, there were like weird gravity flipping portal things happening in that game. And it was a really good shooter, like way back when. So I haven't played Prey 2017 and you haven't played Prey 2006. So I guess we'll just settle for they both good games in their own right.
Every now and then I watch a video about the sequel to Prey that was cancelled. And the ideas they had for the game sound fucking cool. But again, like Prey from Arcane is more an Arcane game than anything else. It is a immersive sim.
Yeah.
It is not it's first person and they're shooting, but it's Dishonored in space, yo. Like that's what it is.
I mean, it feels like Arcane are good at making games that are almost like semi-sandboxes for players to experiment in.
Yeah.
And Deathloop looks very much the same.
I cannot wait for it. You know what interests me so much about Deathloop is that it is the first game that they identify themselves as a first-person shooter. So there is a lot of actual shooting in there. There will definitely be stealth and whatever, but I feel like Deathloop is the first game where it's encouraging me 100%.
They're leaning into that.
Yeah.
It almost
lean
gives
into
me
action.
like a Bulletstorm vibes in that
Yeah.
it wants you to be creative with the tools they give you. So
Definitely,
yeah, I'm very excited for that.
Super keen for that.
A while back, you guys mentioned PS5 and Xbox Series X having fast load times with no opening credits.
Sort of.
Could
Well,
this bring
Spider-Man kind of does that.
it had no opening credits.
Sort of. It has. Okay. Well, it's still a bit of a crapshoot. Sometimes it shows you the like. Marvel and
You're talking
Sony
about when you
splash
start
screens,
the game.
But like most of the time, if you start up the game from a cold boot, obviously if you're running it from suspend, it just loads. But from a cold boot, it's like I think 14 seconds from your PlayStation menu to in the game. It's like ridiculous. It's
super
so
fast.
fast. Yeah.
Could this bring in the age of in-game advertising of the systems used, such as Speed Tree labeled Bush, Muse, Soda, Can, etc.? I don't know. I think games already do have some form of in-game advertising. Like, it's interesting because now that we have fast load times, it's almost like, and again, it's this is us just being like hashtag first world problem of I can't believe I have to wait 10 seconds for all these studios to slap their logos and things in front of me. Can't I just get into the game? Like, I do wonder at what stage does that get taken out? Does it ever get taken out?
But that's the thing. Yeah. Does it ever get taken out? I've always assumed that, there are licensing deals that happen. Like if you use Unreal Engine, you have to make it clear that you're using Unreal Engine.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think you can just as go to Epic and be like, we're not showing this because it reduces our load times. Like they'll be like, okay, well,
people
then don't
hate
use our
waiting
engine.
5 seconds every time they boot up the game.
I've always from the day that they said, oh, there'll be no load times. I'm always like, of course there will be. There has
always
to
something.
be.
Yeah.
Like, maybe once you're in the game, your load times will be next to nothing. And I feel even now, Sony and Microsoft to that for that matter, made such a big deal of like loading screens are done. There isn't a single game where that's true yet. Like,
Yeah.
Like
Look,
even your exclusives don't do that. They'll never go away. They'll just be
the
shorter.
load times are fast, but they're
Oh, they're fucking fast. Like Demon Souls is like
fast.
2 to 3 seconds. It's
Instant.
ridiculous, and it seems like magic, but it's still there.
Yeah.
Like
Still there.
yeah.
Sure. And then last question: why are some people freaking out over Microsoft buying ZeniMax, but no thoughts given to Sega buying Atlas many years ago?
Because Atlas is one studio.
Yeah, it's one studio, and like, no offense to Sega are not nearly as big.
Microsoft
Like,
was going to buy Sega almost. So
yeah,
like,
I mean, there were hot rumors that. I mean, this is like a wild thing. Before this Series X came out, there were rumors that Microsoft were going to buy Sega and then launch the Xbox Series X in Japan as a Sega branded device, which is like, damn. I wonder what that timeline.
That just shows you the different scale of these deals. Like Sega as a publisher buying a developer,
is
especially years ago, where Atlas doesn't have the same, especially in the West, like brand recognition that it does. People know Atlas now because of Persona and tangentially Catherine. But if you took even me back to 2013, I wouldn't know who the fuck Atlas was. Like, I didn't know what Persona was. So,
and not only that, like, I think Persona as a brand is definitely a lot bigger today, but it's still somewhat of a niche thing because not everyone's going to play a full-on JRPG. And Persona Strikers is like a Muso game, which again, very niche sort of genre that not everyone plays. So
I mean, you just have to walk up to someone randomly and say, do you know Persona or do you know Doom? Or do you know Persona or do you know Skyrim?
Different.
And it's very easy, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get the Bethesda property. So,
yeah,
I mean, that's why it's a big deal. The fact that it's not one studio, it's 8. And it's like some of the most recognizable IP in gaming history that Microsoft has taken up.
I mean, Doom
that's
is
why
like,
it's a much bigger deal. Yeah.
Doom itself is synonymous with like the earliest days of shooters. So
it is, Doom and Wolfenstein are the first
and
person
Wolfenstein,
shooters.
yeah, true.
Yeah, like, and again, the absurdity that Microsoft owns Doom. I mean, do yourself a favor and go read up on the fights between John Carmack and id and Microsoft back when Doom was being released as shareware. Like, the fact that Microsoft owns that property now is just such a mind-blowing thing. It's crazy. Yeah, but it's just they're on completely different sides of the scale in terms of impact to the industry. Like, Sega buying Atlas doesn't really impact the industry at all. It just means that Atlas as a publisher, this completely changes the landscape of the next 5 to 10 years of games. So
yeah. And that is all the questions we have. Thank you for the questions.
If you want to send us questions, you can also get us on social media at Checkpoint Chat on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. You can email us checkpointchatpodcast@gmail.com and Checkpoint Chat Podcast on TikTok. Send us, Matty put up a good TikTok.
I made a TikTok. I can't tell you how often I'm going to upload there, but any wild idea, you best believe TikTok.
Yeah, you can't put your cats on there. That's your personal TikTok content.
But yeah, we have a TikTok. If you have TikTok, go give us some love. We appreciate it.
And that's episode 136
36, all
the podcast.
Done and dusted.
As always, if you listen, thank you so much. We highly appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe if you haven't. It would seriously help us.
Turn the little bell on so you know when the next episode comes out.
As long,
I mean, I don't know.
It's not even just
Mondays.
New episodes. It's
there's
the
other
little
stuff
cutouts that you take out from each episode, and soon more streams, more actual gameplay stuff from games. So yeah.
I think when we get into, because like we still really are in almost like dry season where there's some releases here and there, but when we start getting to like the heavy hitting titles, like I know I would be very keen to do like a Friday evening stream of the first hour, for example. So you can definitely expect more of that.
Or something similar to what we did with the PS5 launch. Just some
talking over gameplay, that sort of thing.
Yeah. But we've got jobs, so we do what we can. But at the same time, we appreciate all of your support. So thank you so much for listening. And we will be back here, same time, same place next week. See you then.
That's it.
Bye.
Goodbye.